He served as the third president of the Republic, ascending to power on the 30th December 2002 and leaving State House on Tuesday, the 9th of April 2013. A journey that began on a wheelchair with a neck brace and a cast over his broken leg became a 10-year presidency glowing with accolades on economic performance but mixed reviews on the political front. Citizen TV's Brenda Wanga assesses the Kibaki presidency.
On the 3rd day of December 2002, a horrifying road accident nearly derailed Emilio Mwai Kibaki's third stab at the country's presidency, leading him to spend the last weeks of that campaign in hospitals in Nairobi and London on a wheelchair, with his supporters stepping in to keep the campaign alive.
Get the hand I don't my face because, hey, I am unbogable, I am unbeatable.
When the polls closed on election day, Mwai Kibaki had trounced his closest competitor, Uhuru Kenyatta, with an overwhelming 67% of the votes cast.
Naapa kwamba nitatenda kazi zangu za urais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya kwa uaminifu na kutimiza wajibu wa kazi hizo.
On the 30th of December, Mwai Kibaki took oath of office at Uhuru Park before an unprecedented gathering of Kenyans eager to see the end of one era and the birth of another. With his physical shape in bad state from the road accident, Mwai Kibaki's presidency got to a weak, vulnerable start. The coalition that brought him to power was embroiled in political power struggles as he struggled to recuperate in and out of hospital. Tragedy struck Kibaki again in August 2003 when he lost his trusted lieutenant and vice president Kijana Wamalwa, leaving him exposed in an increasingly fragile coalition. The simmering differences between his NARC and Raila Odinga-led NDP continued to hurt the coalition politically. On the governance front, Kibaki's government was greeted by the highest level of confidence. A Gallup International annual end-of-year poll conducted in 2003 placed Kenyans at the top of the list of the most optimistic people in the world then. This confidence driven largely by a public excited to see the end of the KANU reign, giving Kibaki golden visuals, especially riding on the back of Kibaki's pledge to tackle the graft question.
My government will provide free secondary education from January 1st, the year 2008.
And the delivered promise of free primary school education, giving credence to the possibility of a new dawn in Kenya. Then came the infrastructure boom. Roads were being constructed with Raila Odinga as the minister in charge of roads. The groundwork for the bypasses and the 8-lane Thika road were laid as small-scale traders for the first time accessed unsecured loans, spurring booming business amongst the lower ranks of society. But the cracks of the Sikh political fabric continued to eat away at the base of Kibaki's political administration. The promise of a new constitution within the first 100 days of the coalition's administration fell behind as weeks turned into months and months into years. An acrimonious constitution review process at Bomas ended up in a contestant outcome that gave the country more than one version of the draft constitution. A referendum resulted in a tug of war instead of a debate over the substance of the constitution.
Tumeamua kupiga kura moja, sidio?
21st November 2005, the country went to a referendum to decide the fate of the proposed constitution, christened the Wako draft after the then Attorney General Amos Wako said to have penned the draft. The referendum became a political muscle show between President Mwai Kibaki and his former ally Raila Odinga, with Raila's side winning as the proposed draft was shot down in the referendum. In response to this slap in the face, Mwai Kibaki dissolved his entire government, sending Raila and his team packing from cabinet. The referendum marked the beginning of the 2007 race that ended in infamy. The result of that election, bitterly contested.
The Commission therefore declares Honorable Mwai Kibaki as the President of Kenya.
as the Electoral Commission of Kenya declared Mwai Kibaki re-elected for the second term, narrowly beating Raila by over 230,000 votes. The country exploded in an unprecedented post-election violence that took the shape of a national civil war. Intervention by the international community forced Raila and Kibaki to share power. Kofi Annan hammering a deal dressed in the National Accord and Reconciliation Agreement that proposed a power-sharing deal with Kibaki as president and Raila as prime minister. Mwai Kibaki navigated his second term with a bloated government of 40 ministers due to the provisions of the power-sharing deal. The Grand Coalition government was a mix of joy and pain for Kibaki. While it prevented further ethnic disputes, it was a noisy and messy large ship sailing chaotically to the end of the term. As his exit from the office beckoned, he slowed down on political engagements, spending time launching national development projects like the SGR, the Greenfield Airport Terminal, and the Lamu Port, amongst others. Though he steered clear of openly showing his hand in his succession, he had a soft spot for the then Deputy Prime Minister, Uhuru Kenyatta, the man who had come through for him in his time of need. In 2007, Uhuru had shelved his presidential bid to support Mwai Kibaki's re-election. He was rewarded with the Deputy Prime Minister's seat in the Grand Coalition government, the icing on this cake, the finance docket, a position seen as a launching pad for his future political ambitions. Kibaki sidestepped his vice president of 5 years, Kalonzo Musyoka, as the succession game ended up in Uhuru's favor. On 9th April 2013, Mwai Kibaki handed over the instruments of power to Uhuru Kenyatta at the first presidential inauguration under the 2010 Constitution. After the handover at the Kasarani Stadium, Mwai Kibaki retreated to a quiet retirement, keeping off public events, and was known not to make any comments on matters politics or governance. The late President Mwai Kibaki spent his sunset years between his homes in Muthaiga in Nairobi and Mahiga and Othaya in Nyeri, away from the glare of the cameras and maintaining that gentleman's lifestyle he had lived all along. Brenda Wanga, Citizen TV, Nairobi.